Well, as and when people arrive, I'll let them in discreetly. First, I must apologise because Simon cannot make it today, I'm afraid. About half an hour before we were set to go, we had a problem with his internet connection, and he tried his best to sort that out. And he rang me just a few moments ago to say that he can't make it. He did send me his talk and his introduction to the beginning of this commemoration, but unfortunately, fortunately, it will be in the New Charm Forum. So I think it's probably best to appreciate it then than have me read it out and spoil it for everybody. So what we'll do is we'll carry on. We'll move straight into the second part of the commemoration, which was the video recordings that people have offered. So thanks again for everybody for coming. It's lovely to see everybody. I've just seen a small amount of the video, and I represent, ironically, one of those people who never met John. Just listening to a little bit of that, it's inspiring. So I'm looking forward to hearing it properly, and I'll share this with you now.
We've been doing a meditation called Searching the Heart, in which we have been allowing the experiences of our life, as they are remembered, to rise within us, to tell us their story, to bring us their feelings. And in this way we have been reviewing and uncovering and allowing to emerge that which we are. And maybe we've also been seeing that when that isn't happening, there is a quality of silence. How does all this happen? Well, there's a very old description of the nature of mind, which is quite helpful. That is that we have the senses, the eye, ears, nose, mouth and touch. And each of those senses feeds into a consciousness in the mind. So the mind is made up of awarenesses which come from eyes, ears, nose. And these experiences which come in through the senses are sometimes remembered and stored in a storeroom. So that when we sit in meditation, what happens is that at the same time as the simplicity of the white wall and the sounds of other people in the room and the feel of the carpet beneath us as we sit, at the same time as these sensations are arising within our consciousness, so memories come up and paint their picture for us. So that in the mind there is this kind of picture painting going on. But there's an additional kind of consciousness, and that's called the trickster. And the trickster says to us, all this consciousness, all this activity, it must be me. And this thought that this show, this cinematographic show, is belonging to me, makes me possessive and careful and protective. So that everything that arises within this show appears to have some bearing upon this person, me, who is vulnerable. And so we seek to edit out from our pictures that which is painful and try to look at that which is beautiful and pleasing. And so we go on being preoccupied with feelings, attachments and pains, which are rooted in this notion that this whole cinematographic show which we are experiencing is somehow me. And that's why in this meditation there's a peculiar quality about much of our searching of the heart. The quality of attachment, so that as the memory comes up, we feel the hurts and the pains. We feel as if something is being done to us. We feel victims. And that is because of this attachment, because of the trickster, which makes us feel as if there is something in here, a thing called me. If you go hunting for it, you'll find it difficult to locate. You'll find the pictures. You'll find the sensations of smells and hearing and vision and memories and storytelling. But if you go looking for the me, that may be difficult to find. In fact, you are asked to look for it. In the Chinese teachings, there is an instruction which in a retreat a Chan master may give you. He will say, Tan! Tan means investigate. It means, okay, you think there's a me there. So look for it, find it, dig in. So you search, and you will find memories, pains, hurts, insults, joyous moments, happinesses, blisses, smells, tastes, the day on the river, the day on the yacht, the flight across the Atlantic. You will find all these things, but where will you find the me? And occasionally when the mind gets tired, something appears, a gap, a silence. And you become aware that all this going on, these consciousnesses of the senses, these memories, these pictures, all of it is going on as it were on a kind of screen, but you can't see the screen because there's so many pictures on it, except when the gap happens. Then you find there isn't a screen there at all, but an open window. Beyond that window is a strange landscape, through which strange winds blow from remote mountains, and in which there are the sounds of great oceans. But before you've had more than a glimpse, up comes a picture, obscures the window, and there's the great scenario of Tom, Dick and Harry in full force. So one has a feeling that maybe there's something else about the mind than just this perpetual, attached, painful, sometimes joyous storytelling, which is the history of me, which seems to be somewhere inhabiting this carcass, which has a rather short duration. Lucky if it makes 70 years. But there seems to be a hint. And the Chan master will say, Tan! Investigate! Find out! Have you seen something in that gap? When suddenly the whole phantasmagoria disappeared and you looked as if through a window? Investigate. And the Chinese Chan masters tell a useful metaphor, a useful story. They say, it's like this, you see. If you are visiting an inn, the thing you see most of the time are the guests, the fellow guests, There they are having their meals, there they are sleeping in their bedrooms, there they are visiting the toilets, there they are quarrelling, there they are smiling, there they are putting on their best manners, there they are eating, there they are speaking to the waiter, there they are paying their bills. The inn is full of guests. And that's what you see most of the time in an inn, the guests. And these guests are like your thoughts. They float through the inn, doing all their different things. But where is the owner? Where is the host? We spend most of our waking consciousness in the position of being a guest, filling our minds, buzzing around, being preoccupied. The guest mind. But imagine what it would be like to be the host who entertains these guests. The innkeeper. Silent. Quietly there, while the guests float through. The silent mind is the host, is the innkeeper. The guests are the moving thoughts and the painful feelings. They come and they go, but the host remains. But the host is rarely seen, because the foyers are full of the guests, the dining rooms are full of the guests. Where is the host? Where is the innkeeper? Turn, investigate, find the innkeeper, find the host. Because it is said that the mind which we normally see, the mind of the guests rattling about, is a born mind. It's born, it's created, it's always making new pictures and new stories. But there was also at one time an unborn mind which was silent. And the strange thing is that that unborn mind has not disappeared. It lies behind, it's always the background for the show which the guests are making. And this unborn mind, so-called unborn, because it is not contaminated by thoughts and feelings and the rushings abouts of guests. The unborn mind behind it is the host. Turn, investigate, discover the host. Do not always be attached to the activities of the guests. You can watch the guests as you search your heart. They rise within you, they circle about, they play their games, and they pass away, and another one comes up, and another one goes. But have you seen the innkeeper? Is he in the garden, outside the window? To find the innkeeper when one has such a very noisy hotel is quite difficult. And so the Chinese have given us a method to do that. The method is like this. They say, well, thoughts are usually haphazard and all over the place, and you get attached to them so easily. You get caught up in the thoughts, and there you are, away you go. So why not give the mind a fixed thought, a very simple fixed thought, like one guest. If there's only one guest in the inn, it might be easier to find the innkeeper. So we have one thought, and that one thought is the name of Buddha, say. It might be anything, it might be A, B, C, D, but one normally uses the name of Buddha. It doesn't matter, you can choose any name. But the name of Buddha is normally used is Amitabha, Amitabha. So you set up a pattern in your mind, you feed it through, and you say in your mind's eye, Amitabha, 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 and you set up a repetitive pattern, Amitabha, 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 Amitabha. The guest keeps going, coming down the foyer, through the dining room, all over the place. Amitabha, nothing but Amitabha everywhere. Amitabha, just keep it turning, Amitabha. And then at some point, Amitabha, You don't say it. Amitabha. And you look into the hole out of which the word might have come but didn't. Amitabha, 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 Amitabha. Amitabha, 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 Amitabha. Amitabha, Amitabha, Amitabha. This is called looking into the space before the thought arises. Chinese hua tu. Hua tu is a pre-thought. So, Tan, investigate. What is a pre-thought? Well, we can find out. Amitabha, Amitabha, Amitabha. Look into the gap created. And when one looks into that gap that is created, with practice, and as the mind becomes still, so one begins to see there is an expanding silence. You are discovering the host. The hotel is going on holiday. The corridors are silent. The windows are open. The host is relaxing. Just be an innkeeper. Investigate. And so in today's practice, if you so wish, you may take up that method this morning and explore it and see if it gives you some insight into the way in which the mind can be silent. That you can be a host for your own thoughts. And the host is very quiet. It's the guests who are disturbed. It is an activity of witnessing. You get yourself into the position of witnessing the activity of the mind instead of being identified with it. Probably yesterday, as the thoughts arose, we identified with it. Some image would come up and we identify with, how beautiful and nice that is, I'd like that. Or something the opposite, oh dear, so you negative identification. But whichever way it is, you're in there, you're caught up in it, your feelings come up. But as soon as you begin to create a little gap and witness it, already your center of gravity is swinging somewhere else. You're no longer caught up. You're becoming the witness. So up comes something and you went, it's interesting. Wow, here we go again. I seem to have been there before. And you witness it. But the witnesser is not caught up, is not imprisoned, is not the prisoner of his or her own thoughts, is not the guest, captured as it were within a hotel, but is the host, free to watch one come, watch another go, passing through. Witnessing is a crucial aspect of this type of meditation. To practice shikantaza, you have to discover how to move your center of gravity out of being identified with your thoughts and feelings into being the one who witnesses. Because it is the one who witnesses who can fall still and thereby see.
His journey spanned over 60 years and took him to the New Forest, Hong Kong, East Africa, Ethiopia, the Seychelles, India, Ladakh, Tibet, Japan, China, Taiwan, even Antarctica, always returning to various homes in Southampton, Bristol, Mendip and Wales. He was not unlike a migrant bird, making pilgrimages to sacred sites, and in later years became the wise old owl that we knew, who loved solitude, imparting nuggets of Buddhist wisdom. Layman John was a fine Zen teacher and a teacher of Tibetan Buddhism. His poetry allows us to savour his sharp insights into human nature. Some lines in his poems, like Commemoration in the Reeds, have a real Zen flavour. His poem, Letting Go, is a Buddhist masterpiece which I always treasure. When you let go of God and everything, you find yourself. When you let go of yourself, you see nature. And here are little bits and pieces of Mind Fluid, a place we probably all know very well. And this is actually John writing on a visit in 1975 when he went there on his own. It's what it's like to go there on your own. Arriving in the yard, I switch off the engine and gaze at the view, evening sun on the rolling hills, yellow fields, dark woods. In the sudden silence, a buzzard mews, distantly guiding sheep, dogs bark. Entering the gate, I come home to my hermitage. Welcoming trees brood, and the old door creaks on rusty hinges. Falling plaster needs sweeping from the floor. Softly on cold flags, moisture gleams. Lighting the fire, I watch slow smoke rising, hang in the windless coon. And here is another poem which was written in July, just at this time of year. Evening falls in the silent valley, shirtless in the charm hall, doors open. Sunbeams flood the floor, buzzing flies dirty the panes. Bamboo wind bells talk in the sycamore tree, tack, tock, tick, a good kip. Woodpecker shouting, ginger cat visiting again. No water in the brook, no sound. Looking up, somebody coming. Haymaking, humming in the distant air. Binoculars to distant fields. Where? Dawn breeze through the open door. Sweet sheep shit, flavouring honeysuckle. Whales, the green aquarium. Birds swim along, singing.
I thought, rather than tell a story about John, which might take hours and hours, that I would write a poem. So this is my poem, Memories of John Crook. A first view in a pitch-black farmyard, one October. A strange recognition, simultaneously unsettling and reassuring. Wild hair dragged into submission by a comb with broken teeth. Wilder eyebrows, untamable and mobile as caterpillars. Erudition, study of both texts and life, spill from lips that instruct, entertain and encourage. John loved his tales and to hold forth. Tea after exercises, and he would enter again, dressed in maroon wool, a maverick in Tibetan chuba. He loved to dress to fit the occasion, so long as the occasion was of his making. Robes and incense and bows, black and brown, sedate but never sombre. Wielding the ancient ladle at meals, distributing porridge, soup and stews, good marmalade in front of him at breakfast. The one-to-one encounter in the library. So how are you getting on? Opening up vats of tears, insights, clarity, laughter. The whole of human life on those 2 chairs. And always more to do. Carry on. Pilgrimages to the strangest of places, far-flung monasteries perched on mountains, temples in cities, birds, always birds, kites, ospreys, eagles, vultures, yellow wagtails, choughs. John staring out across deserts or the Sangye grasslands. I wonder what he saw there beyond the dust and the soil. Closer to home, his beloved Winterhead Hill farm, filled with treasures from many continents, artifacts from foreign cultures, times and places, and cauliflower cheese on the kitchen table, the one thing he knew how to make. Apart from plans, there was always a plan cooking, the next trip, an urban monastery, a European chansanger, the next book, the next poem, the next sherry. Military, mesmerising mountain of a man, delighted by a chocolate biscuit with a sustaining coffee when the day hit its weary point. Raconteur, naturalist, academic, adventurer, intervened briefly in our lives, pointing out foibles, connections, new ways of seeing, pointing out the way, and leaving us to get on with it ourselves, as we must, going on into the snow alone, pointing out the great way. I offer my haiku from the other side. I never thought I'd say, my master died.
Well, thank you to James and Fiona for those lovely contributions. They're really very moving. I almost feel like I need to speak on behalf of us, of those of us who didn't meet John, and yet kind of benefited from that legacy. It must, for those of you who knew him, I imagine when you listen to him speaking there early on, for me, certainly I began to think of the Charn Hall and the sun shining through the barn doors onto the floor while you're listening to someone talk, and just being pulled back into that makes me realise what how lucky we have been actually to benefit from someone who's had that kind of creativity to put all those things together. Because Man Fluid had that kind of, had a magical quality about it. I'm sure we all remember our first time sitting in the Charn Hall. Very moving indeed. Now it's an opportunity to listen to people contribute who are with us today, and I'd like to invite Tim Blong to speak first, if you can. Thanks, Tim. You need to unmute yourself.
Hello everyone, it's good to see lots of faces from over the years. John Crook, I want to talk about John, the adventure explorer, John, who wrote these inviting yet challenging words. The fool by the signless signpost stands pointing out the way. Here on the mountain where the path stops, you go into the snow alone. This is an invocation of the adventure explorer spirit that John had. But I'm not referring to his extensive travels, such as the hilltops of Hong Kong as an army officer, or to the Rift Valley watching baboons, or to Mount Kailash in Tibet, but more about his adventure in and exploration of the Dharma, the voyage of discovery to find who I am and what Buddha nature is, in all its forms, whether that was Krishnamurti in Pune, encounter groups in California, Roshi Kennett at Russell Hole, an ancient Chan master on Lantu Island in Hong Kong, Tibetan yogins in Ladakh, or Master Shen Yang in New York. His enthusiastic quest was an unspoken, so his enthusiastic quest for an unspoken wisdom was unquestionable. Maybe started by him reading these words that he talked about many times, the words in Hong Kong, to the great monk, Sing Wei, there is no time, what is memory? This quest was not just an academic collecting and analysis of scripts, it was an active engagement to give it a go, to try it out, even to be gently humoured by great masters, which according to his own words in the koans of Layman John, when he asked these big naive questions, he was deeply humoured by some of these masters. These quests resulted in John bringing back his discoveries to the mind fluid and trying them out on us on his retreats. I remember the boyish enthusiasm and twinkle in his eyes when he returned from Zanskar with a manuscript of Dzogchen teaching, or him returning from sitting retreats with Master Shen Yang to say, we're going to run silent illumination retreats here in Wales. And he would give it a go. His enthusiasm was not to be limited. Obviously, his big experiment was the creation of the Western Zen retreats, mixing encounter groups, enlightenment intensives, Rajneesh exercises, Zen koans, and weirdly, Greek Zorba dancing. These were wild adventures. Every time when I arrived to cook at a retreat, I'd wonder what magical mystery tour I would be going on this time, as no retreat was ever the same. The adventurous act was simultaneously doing a set of rather risky things with a group of strangers halfway up a Welsh hillside. To use some cliches here, he was opening several cans of worms, letting all the genies out of the bottle, and taking the lid off Pandora's box, all in one go. But this was a bold act of faith by adventurer John. So even when things got a bit touch and go on the darkness of a Sunday evening, he had a big faith in the process working. Such as the time when a big angry Welshman, built like a brick house and with a Land Rover full of chainsaws, started banging on the Buddha room floor so hard that it snowed lime paint flakes in the sitting room and above the dining table. Meanwhile, sitting opposite him was a young woman frozen in catatonic fear, unable to speak a word for 2 days during the communication exercise, ashen-faced and trembling. What to do? What to do? Well, John's amazing answer was just let the universe do it. And so the angry man found his oceans of tears and completely softened, and the petrified woman found her voice and recited from heart a long Christian prayer that filled the Buddha room with light and resolved peace. Let the universe do it. A reassuring mantra for any adventurous Dharma explorer. And of course, John had a huge reserve of big-hearted wisdom to help guide us on all such journeys. So to use another cliche, slightly reworded, John inspired me to boldly go where no Tim has gone before. No self, the final frontier. Discovering what is beyond the self is the true exploration and is a huge adventure not to be missed. So, to John's words again, transliterating, having no obstructions, there is no fear. Going, going, going on beyond, going altogether beyond. Gate, gate, paragate, parasamgate, bodhisattva.
Thank you, Tim. Well, I think Simon has been able to make it now. Are you there, Simon? Would you like to unmute?
Well, hello everyone, and please carry on.
Well, thank you for that, Tim. So I'd like to invite Huey now. Wherever you are, Huey. Hello there.
Hello. Wasn't it brilliant to see John in that presentation? Fantastic. On one of the retreats, I had a lot of musical stuff happen in my mind, and I eventually ended up as a record. And I went to visit John at Winterhead, and I took my guitar so I could play him some of these. And he particularly liked this one, Green Tara. So I'm going to do that. I'm finding the piano a lot easier to play these days than the guitar. So I'm not as good on the piano as I am on the guitar, but there we are. Anyway, I played it to him on the guitar, and he went very, very misty. And when I finished, I was a little bit nervous about what his reaction was going to be, but he looked at me and he goes, copyright it. Copyright it straight away. Anyway, so we did. On another occasion, actually, I played him some Bach from one of the prelude in D. So I played in this thing, and it's quite long, right? So it's long enough for your mind to wander while you're playing it. So I managed to get to the end of it, and again, I was quite nervous to see his reaction, and he'd gone misty, and he said, I always wanted to be a musician. He said, so he kind of shared that sort of musical, not too wordy thing. About not too wordy. Now, I don't know if you can hear this very well. I'm just going to have to give it a go. Please join in.
Thank you for that, Huey. That was lovely. And finally, I'd like to invite Nick Salt. If you could unmute, please, and share with us your thoughts.
I first met John in 1993 in my local bookshop in Llanidloes, when I happened to hear that now familiar voice asking if they had any secondhand books on Tibet. We soon got talking, and he told me about the Buddhist retreats he was running at his nearby cottage at Mindfulness up in the hills, which was where I went on my first Zen retreat in 1994 and continued to go on other retreats for the next 25 years. By the time of that first retreat, he was aware that I was an architect and lived not far away, so asked me if I would be interested in helping him with a project he had in mind. This was to renovate and convert the derelict cowshed barn across the farmyard that he was just about to buy, and create a generous Chan meditation hall, complete with sleeping accommodation, compost toilets and showers, and a bed-sitter library where teachers could give interviews, study and sleep. John was always an inspiring and creative teacher and client with a healthy disrespect for some of the planning and building controls of the local authority. That got us into a bit of trouble at one stage, but with his usual tact and charm, he managed to win over the curious and somewhat skeptical members of the planning committee during their unusual site visit, which just happened to occur during a retreat. Their final comment to me was, "Who would have thought such interesting things were happening in the hills of Radnorshire?" I felt that our somewhat shaky retrospective planning application was now probably safe, and that maybe they had somehow got a taste of the flavour and charm. Mindfulness became one of my main jobs for the next year or so, which continued in one way and another for the following 25 years, until last year, when the WCF moved to their new retreat centre at Shorebottom Farm in the Peak District. I'm so pleased that John's children, Marty and Tanya, have now asked me to carry on with helping them to make improvements for future uses and to keep an eye on the house and the hall. So I hope my long connection with Mindfulness will continue. Now, from the modest mountains of Mid Wales to the high Himalayas. As you probably already know, John had a long and fruitful association with Ladakh and its people. And in 1998, I was lucky to be able to join one of his trips. Traveling with John in Ladakh was an inspiring experience, and the genuinely warm reception he had from the monks at the monasteries we visited was so moving to observe, with many cups of tea and slightly stale biscuits. On that particular trip, he was very keen to visit the neighbouring area of Spiti, which had only just been opened up to outsiders and which still had a strong Tibetan Buddhist culture similar to Ladakh. On the main road south, going into that stunningly beautiful and isolated place, the main road had been cut by a landslide. So coming in from the north, we were just by chance some of the few foreigners to be in Spiti at that time. John's obvious boyish excitement about being there for the first time infected our whole group. I still cherish the memory of exploring with him the extraordinary monastery and temple at Tabo, which is over 1,000 years old and the longest surviving continuously operating Buddhist enclave in the whole of India and the Himalayas. We then made an exhilarating and arduous trek over a 5,000 meter, well over 6,000 feet, 16,000 feet Himalayan pass, crossing a high and treacherous glacier, which we had been assured was not there. A fascinating trip full of challenges and spiritual inspiration. And I feel so privileged to have had the chance to be there with someone of John's boundless enthusiasm and deep knowledge of those ancient Buddhist countries and cultures. It certainly enhanced my spiritual relationship with him as a teacher and my own ongoing Chan practice, for which I'm very grateful. I once told him during a retreat interview that my mind had been buzzing like bees, to which he replied, "Ah, but who is the beekeeper?"
Thank you, Nick. We now have another opportunity to listen to some recorded talks from Hilary, Sophie, and another one from James Crowden. So let's listen to that.
I'm Hilary. I know a lot of you already, and you probably all know the Manfluid, John's monastery in the Welsh Hills. He was my teacher for more than 25 years. No guru, no church, no dependency. Beyond the farmyard, the wind in the trees. The fool by the signless signpost stands pointing out the way. Here on the mountain where the path stops, you go on into the snow alone. Hell's gate is open and heaven shimmers in the mirage. The great sky is totally devoid of cloud. At one with the food we eat, we identify with the universe. At one with the universe, we taste the food. The universe and the food we eat partake of the same nature. We share the merits of this food with all. The first bite is to discard evil. The second bite is to train in perfection. The third bite is to help all beings. We pray that all may be enlightened.
To have a heart realization is a total feeling state. The whole of oneself is involved in a heart realization. So what is it we are here to realize in the heart? Of course, the Buddha Dharma. Now there's a nice mouthful for you. To realize the Buddha Dharma.
I'd like to offer a very brief tribute to Dr. John Crook on this day, July the 11th, 2021, 10 years following John Crook's death, which we understand to have been 3 days or so before his body was found, and which for a Buddhist practitioner is auspicious for the body to lay undisturbed. I have so many memories of John making pilgrimage to China, doing retreat in Wales, at Sharpham, at Gaia House. His visits here to Cornwall to visit Bill Pickard, and also in 2007 on the occasion of a small Chan Fellowship gathering here, and the occasion of Huey Carroll completing an engraving, a carving of the 10-syllable Tara mantra upon a piece of serpentine, which is seated beside me here. And John, upon that August weekend, this is a very characteristically wet July, a similar kind of atmosphere with these woods in full greenness. John composed a dedication which he explained to me he felt arising as he walked around this place. And so by way of aspiration, I'd like to offer this recitation of John's dedication in the spirit of continuity. Continue is one of the core memories and recollections and transmissions from John in interview, in daily life, as we all continue on with John in our hearts. This is a dedication and empowerment of the green Tara stone of the Woods and Waters, Gear Mill in Cornwall. We bless this stone with the empowerment of the spirit of green Tara. May her mantra permeate this temple by the waters, inspire those who practice here, and bring blessings on all those who visit her. We bless this stone with the empowerment of the spirit of green Tara, so that her creation from the tears of compassion for all the world may inspire all likewise taking care of this place and all habitats of wild creatures worldwide. We bless this stone with the empowerment of the spirit of green Tara, so that her energies may transform the ill in body and the sick in mind, with the vast spaciousness of the light of bliss inherent in the awareness of every mood, bringing them to a joy irrespective of any condition. Mantare, tutare, ture swaha. Pet, pet, pet. Thank you.
One of the wonderful things I did with John was to go on many treks and journeys in North India, and in particular in Ladakh, which I knew quite well. And his poetry there was very good. In fact, we wrote poetry together, and we recited it together, so our words became mingled, which was great. First, I'll just read Letting Go. The great doubt of Lin Chi, the certainty of Sao Tong. Beyond doubt and certainty, what is it? Investigate it. When you let go of everything, you find God. When you let go of God, you find everything. When you let go of God and everything, you find yourself. When you let go of yourself, you see the nature. God, everything, and self. All are empty. Yet emptiness finds expression in forms virtual to the mind. Dead leaves blow in the autumn wind. Springtime, daffodils. And these next bits are from Ladakh, when we went there in August 1990. A Chushikjal tea with an old friend. Sonam Wanchuk, the Kasha Lompo, surrounded by memories, old paintings. The moon rising, the valley far below, two rivers meet. Such friendship, such friendship. Over the valley, black mountain peers. Am I menaced or protected? I am not sure. Juno Dunlak, do not say this name. Something like darkness touches my mind. Kataks and incense, offerings to the La. Nobody knows. Opposite Pipchar, water swirling, turning, twisting, gliding, pummeling its way down, dividing the mountain, the valley's pulse, carving the rock, a thin ribbon of silted water. Lunak, the black breath, linking village with village, the glaciers melt, sharpening its wits on the water's edge, each bridge crossing the eye of the river. Clouds of dust as horses are gathered, driven down the mountain. Again, the smell of dung fires, old geishas with fading mind. Probably no longer remembers philosophy. Beyond his window, choughs whirl and stall. In distant cells, his brother monks intone their liturgies with lowered eyelids over shining eyes. For 76 years, he's seen it all. High above the swirling river, what do they see? One lammergeier and 2 eagles. Dry, dusty dry, fierce Central Asian dry. Once more the wind pummels the valley. At the top of the pass, a small bell times the horses' meditations.
Well, thank you everybody who's contributed today in those talks and videos. It's really lovely to have the heart touched. I'm sure we all share a sense of gratitude to what we've heard today. We're going to take a 10-minute break now. You can catch a cup of tea and bring that with you, back with you. On your return, you'll see that you'll have a little invite to a breakout room. And it'll be an opportunity for us to share, if we've met John, our experiences and memories of him, and if we haven't, what Man Fluid did to us in the WCF and the effects it's had on our practice and all that sort of thing. So we'll return at just before 3:15.